and the irreligious, between action that should be done and action that should not be done, that imperfect understanding, O son of Pritha, is in the mode of passion. Text number 32. Adharmam dharmam itiya manyate tamasa prita sarvartan vapiritamsha buddhi sa tamasi. Translation. That understanding which considers irreligion to be religion and religion to be irreligion under the spell of illusion and darkness and strives always in the wrong direction, O Partha, is in the mode of ignorance. Text 33. Dhritya yaya dharayate mana pranendriya kriyaha yogena vyavitadinya dhriti sa partha sattviki. Translation. O son of Pritha, that determination which is unbreakable, which is sustained with steadfastness by yoga practice and controls the mind, life, and the acts of the senses, is in the mode of goodness. Text 34. Yayatu dharma kamartan dhritya dharayate arjuna prasannena palakankshi dhriti sa partha rajasi. Translation. And that determination by which one holds fast to fruitive result in religion, economic development, and sense gratification is of the nature of passion, O Arjuna. Text 35. Yaya svapnam bhayam shokam vishadam madam evacha na vimunchati durmedha dhriti sa partha tamasi. Translation. And that determination which cannot go beyond dreaming, fearfulness, lamentation, moroseness, and illusion, such unintelligent determination is in the mode of darkness. Text 36 and 37. Sukham tvadinadim trividham shrinu me bharatarshapha abhyasa dramate yatra dukhantam cha nigachchiti Yatad agre risham iva pariname mritopamam tatsukham satvigam bhuktam atma buddhi prasadajam. Translation. O best of the Bharatas, now please hear from me about the three kinds of happiness which the conditioned soul enjoys, and by which he sometimes comes to the end of all distress. That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. Text 38. Vishayendriya samyogad yattad agre mritopamam pariname visham iva tatsukam rajasam smritam. Translation. That happiness which is derived from contact of the senses with their objects and which appears like nectar at first but poison at the end is said to be of the nature of passion. Text 39. Yatagre chanubandhe cha sukham mohanam atmanaha nidralasya pramadodham tatramasam udharitam. Translation. And that happiness which is blind to self-realization, which is delusion from beginning to end, which arises from sleep, laziness, and illusion, is said to be of the nature of ignorance. Thank you. And text 40. Natad asti pritivyam va divi deveshu va punaha satham prakriti jar muktam yad evi syat tribir gunaihi. Translation. There is no being existing, either here or among the demigods in the higher planetary systems, which is freed from the three modes of material nature. So, chapter 18, text 30. Translation. O son of Pritha, that understanding by which one knows what ought to be done and what ought not to be done, what is to be feared and what is not to be feared, what is binding and what is liberating, that understanding is established in the mode of goodness. Purport. Actions which are performed in terms of the directions of the scriptures are called pravritti, or actions that deserve to be performed, and actions which are not so directed are not to be performed. One who does not know the scriptural directions becomes entangled in the actions and reactions of work. Understanding which discriminates by intelligence is situated in the mode of goodness. Discriminates by intelligence. So, this is reminding me of a verse from the 16th chapter. And 16th chapter discusses the divine and demoniac natures. And we can go there and we can find a verse or two which are connected with this point here, how there's a certain group of people which are called asuras, and it's stated on chapter 16, text number 7. You can go back to that verse for a little reference. It's interesting because the verse starts with the very same line. Chapter 16, text 7. Pravritim cha nivritim cha janana vidhud asuraha na shocham na pichacharo na satyam te shuvidyate. Translation. Those who are demoniac do not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. Neither cleanliness nor proper behavior nor truth is found in them. So persons who are the asuras, or in demoniac quality of conditional life, they don't know what is to be done and not to be done. And what we understand from this verse in purport in the 18th chapter, text 30, is that understanding is the key to changing that situation for the demon, not demoniac persons or those in the demoniac quality. We have to understand, then we can discriminate. Then we can know what is to be done and not to be done. So Prabhupada would often state that we are suffering here for lack of knowledge, right? For lack of understanding of reality, for lack of understanding the influence of the laws of nature. And we were hearing yesterday that some people, or maybe it was a few days ago, that persons are thinking that they're living a clean, healthy lifestyle, but they're actually engaging in many sinful activities again and again, moment after moment. So we're meant to distribute this knowledge, and then the general class of men can be raised to understanding in Krishna consciousness. And in general, the society is structured in such a way that there's a class of men that has very thorough understanding of spirit and matter. And that's called the Brahminical class of men. That group of human society is meant to help all the other classes harmonize with the supreme reality or the spiritual reality or the laws of God. And so the Brahmanas are known, or they're characterized, as we heard, we've been hearing recently, they're characterized by the mode of goodness, right? So one can actually be elevated in terms of what modes of nature dominate their activities and their understanding, their choice of foodstuffs, their faith, XYZ, as we'll hear in this 18th chapter. Somebody can be elevated in terms of which modes of nature are predominantly controlling them by contact with the bona fide spiritual master. Without contact with the bona fide spiritual master, we're not able to transcend this laws of karma. We're not able to enter into the spiritual paradigm or Krishna consciousness or spiritual consciousness, God consciousness, which allows us to transcend the modes of nature which have been dealt to us due to our karma. So, if we perform activities in the direction according to the direction of the scriptures, then that is proper. And if we do so in other ways, that is improper, and will be bound up by those reactions. Actually, we, in this transcendental science, we are interested to also transcend the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend elevation to higher planets through righteous work. We understand that the real goal is in the spiritual abode of Krishna. We read a cool verse, na tad bhasayate suryo, na shashanko na pavakaha, yad gatva na nivartante, tad dhamma paramam mama. So, tad dhamma paramam mama, that supreme abode of mine, Krishna says, is not illumined by the sun, nor the moon, nor of electricity or fire. And one who reaches that place never returns to this material world. Right? So we're not interested in all the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend that you can drink soma rasa and a wonderful beverage, intoxicating beverage on the heavenly planets, or enjoy with wonderful consorts or long lifespan. We're not actually interested in that, or we're being trained not to be interested in that, because there's a supreme abode which is even more rewarding. So we want to also transcend the recommendations of the scripture that are governed by the modes of nature. So we take transcendental instructions from the Parampara, and the Parampara, they give recommendations based on how to attain the essence, right? How to attain that topmost goal and leave all the rest behind. So the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, we heard in the prayer to them that they scrutinizingly studied all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all humankind. So we have Nectar Devotion, we have Hari Bhakti Vilas, we have many wonderful transcendental literatures that have been written essentializing the most important instructions for a sadhaka who wants to attain the supreme planet of Krishna Loka right here, right now. Yes? Would you use this microphone for 1 second? Hare Krishna.
Before I forget, so we want to attain it, but at the same time, we do not want to attain it. We do not want to desire to attain it. Like this morning, we talked about how it should be a selfless kind of just servitude to humanity, I guess, without having a strong desire, but at the same time, we kind of want to, but not really.
Very nice point. So, Prabhupada entitled his magazine, he wrote in English, a magazine even before he came to the United States, called Back to Godhead. You can leave it. So he wrote this article, Back to Godhead, or this magazine, periodical. And what we can understand is that Back to Godhead means to merge in transcendence, or to enter the ocean of devotional service. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the nectar of devotion. It's like an ocean, right? That's how it's described by Srila Rupa Goswami. So we're meant to dive into that ocean, right? But our goal isn't to merge. Our goal is to live as one of the various aquatics who maintain individual identity while merged in the ocean, or swimming in the ocean, or, relishing existence within that ocean of service to Krishna personally. So we want to attain a destination, but what does that destination mean? The spiritual world is all about Krishna's pleasure. You can't enter there until you become completely free from all personal motivation. So desiring to go there is equal with desiring completely selflessly. Does that make sense? Because only one who is completely selfless can enter there. So desiring there to be there is the same as desiring to be completely selfless. Does that make sense? So that's very humble. So that supreme abode, the atmosphere there is only service to Krishna. There's nothing but service to Krishna there. So until we become completely purified of all desire for sense gratification or self gratification, either individual or extended, meaning my family or the bodies of those in relation to my family, or the nation where this body was born, or the race that this body was born into, XYZ. We're not allowed to enter there until we become completely purified from all those selfish desires. Now, the modes of material nature dictate to us. They dictate to us what body we will receive until we develop the attitude of the residents in the spiritual world. And that attitude is, or brings the spiritual world to the practitioner. So there is one pastime, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is Krishna himself. He is Krishna himself. You see, Krishna. So there's one, Krishna Varnam Trisha Krishnam, that he's the same Krishna, but he's not in the color of Krishna's skin tone. The word Krishna actually means blackish, which is very wonderful. Krishna's name is also describing his color, or the color of his skin tone. But Krishna Varnam, that means in classification, or he's the same Krishna, but Dvisha a Krishna, means with the skin color not of Krishna. So this is a very famous verse describing the appearance of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Kali Yuga. It's probably the most famous shloka which quotes that, or which predicts the advent of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this Kali Yuga, in this specific point in the history of this universal bubble which we are inhabiting. So Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's Krishna himself, but he's in the mood of his most elevated, his most dear, most devotee, Srimati Radharani. When he came, he was speaking with Advaita Acharya, and he was saying, Advaita Acharya is one of his associates. And actually, he's Lord Shiva, or Sadashiva and Mahavishnu in the same body. It's very mystical, but that's Advaita Acharya. And we say his name, Sri Advaita, is part of the prayer that we say to Lord Chaitanya's associates. Don't worry. And Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was saying that he wanted to go to Vrindavan, right? We know Vrindavan 5,000 years ago on this planet where we're on this planet. Krishna, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, descended to that place right over there. Which way? That's north. That's west. That's east. If we go that way, we can literally, our body will be on the same tract of land where Krishna descended 5,000 years ago in this bubble universe, which we live in right now. That's the Vedic paradigm. That's what we're stepping into. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's Krishna himself in the mood of Srimati Radharani. And 500 years ago, he's feeling incredible desire to be in that place where Krishna advented. So is it possible for him to have a material selfish desire? No. He wants to go there for service. That desire is not material and it's not selfish. It's completely selfless. That desire. That is the paradigm of Krishna consciousness. That is the contradiction that everybody in this material world is completely dominated by material desires. And the spiritualist or the real yogi and mystic, he's completely dominated by spiritual desires. And he feels incredible anxiety to satisfy the senses of Krishna according to the dictation of the Lord within his heart. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was saying to Advaita Acharya that he wanted to go to Vrindavan, Sri Advaita Prabhu said, wherever you are, that is Vrindavan. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's some wonderful verses stating that wherever the pure devotee goes, he makes that place a holy place. Because his service attitude creates the environment or the atmosphere of the spiritual world. Because the consciousness is different. Anywhere he goes, he sees everyone and everything in relation to his most beloved Lord Sri Krishna. And he is such a powerful touchstone. Anybody who even enters into that radius, they become enlivened by that spiritual consciousness. Right? Sometimes even when we follow the order of such pure devotees, we see that they may even empower us to do that to a certain environment. Right? The disciple, though, or the humble practitioner always thinks, it is the holy name. that is purifying this environment, that is sanctifying this place. It is Prabhupada's touchstone books giving the Vedic conclusion of Bhakti Yoga, giving the end of all knowledge, Bhakti Yoga, to anyone and everyone. Right? So the practitioner never thinks, I am doing this big preaching. But if he practices sincerely and he follows the order of the Parampara system, in our Parampara, what do they say? They say, become Guru and deliver the world. Become Guru, deliver the world. So on the order of the transcendental Parampara system, we may be able to create a transcendental bubble. And sometimes you're out on books and you start talking to somebody and you pass them the literature and something happens to them. It's like they wake up out of a dream. And for a few moments, they're living in reality in an attitude of service, who they really are. And as soon as we walk away, Maya crashes in again. Right? So all that was to kind of just highlight the point that the service attitude of the devotee creates the spiritual world wherever he is. So in the spiritual reality, there are gradations of perfection. Based on where we're at in our conditional life, desiring to go back to Godhead is very important. But there are devotees that are in the perfectional stage beyond desiring to go back to Godhead, even desiring to go back to Godhead in truth, in full, in reality. That means we understand what it means back to Godhead. That means completely selfless. That means ahaituki apritiyata, yatma suprasidati. That Vasudeva Bhagavati, right? That these are a few lines from a verse which describes the state of pure devotional service. That we will only be satisfied when we render service to Vasudeva, to Krishna, which is unmotivated and uninterrupted. That is happening in the spiritual world. So if we desire to go back to that environment where we can live that 24/7, that is perfect. We are perfect if we actually have that desire and we cultivate it and we act on it. 1 second. There may be a stage where one has become even more perfect. And they're already situated in that perfect stage of pure devotional service, and they don't even care about going anywhere or anything because they have Krishna's service even where they're at. Go ahead. So he said to concentrate on the dharma, the duty, and let Krishna take care of everything else. So actually in the stage that we're at right now, we have to learn a few basic things. We have to learn how to get along with devotees. We have to learn to understand this philosophy. And we have to learn to do our duty. Those are a few basics. If we can learn that little bit where we're at, that'll be very nice. And we'll make really good progress on the spiritual path because we're guided by the right people. That's the beauty of being in this ISKCON movement, is that devotees are guided by the pure devotional principles enunciated and practiced and exemplified by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's Krishna himself, who's showing specifically how to perform Harinam Sankirtan Yagya in this age of Kali Yuga. So we're very fortunate. We should hold on to what we got. We should hold on to this opportunity. The best time to do it is when we chant our rounds. When we call out to Krishna, those 16 rounds, we have a chance to really make our determination. I want to hold on to this and I want to go the distance. You know, we don't have much free will, but we have minute free will. And we can direct that free will that I want to try my absolute best to bring my attention to the holy name of Krishna, at least for these 16 rounds. And actually, you can even break it up and you say, I just want to hear one mantra. If we can even hear one mantra, that'll be great. Because the mind is so fickle and crazy, you know, that's a good goal. So to sum it all up, based on where we're at, desiring to go from back to Godhead is actually really a perfect stage. And Prabhupada is training us that you have to reach that stage before you can reach a stage where you don't even care if you go back to Krishna Loka or you go to hell. And some devotees, that's where they're at for real. But because Prabhupada has taught us, as long as we're embodied, we should consider ourselves neophytes. You know, we should consider ourselves neophytes. So, you know, wanting to go back to Godhead and cultivating that desire to go back to the spiritual world so we can enter that pure devotional atmosphere there, that's just fine. And Krishna will bring us advancement in that direction based on our desire. He says, Ye yatam mam prapadyante tam sataivam bhajamyaham. Mama vardmanuvartante manusya partha sarvashaha. That, he says, as they surrender unto me, this is chapter 4, text 11. As they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Right? Everybody follows my path in all respects. What does that mean? It means we all have desires, and who's fulfilling them? Not me. Can I fulfill your desires? Heck no. I disappoint everybody. I can't satisfy anybody. Seriously. That's why our relationships, they never work. Because I can't satisfy anyone. Only Krishna can satisfy desires. And what's so amazing is depending on our desires, he helps us get the results. So if we want fruitive results, I want to work really hard according to my material intelligence and get something based on what I think I should deserve from that type of work. Krishna may just arrange, according to my karma, to give me some result. And I'll be bewildered again, thinking, yeah, I made it happen, just like I thought. And then, if we want to merge into transcendence and lose our individual identity, or just pretend like we lose our individual identity, he lets us do that. And he'll even let us merge into the Brahma Jyoti, and we'll be like a spiritual spark. And we'll be kind of just in a, comatose type of state where we think that we're not an individual. But then we'll be lonely and we'll fall back down a material platform because we don't have the qualification of bhakti. We don't have any love for Krishna and service attitude. So we're not allowed to go up any higher. So we have to come down from that platform. And then we do types of mode of goodness stuff like open hospitals and things like that. And then inadvertently, because we don't have any bhakti, we get tied back in with the modes of nature and we end up doing sinful things by accident. And then we have to go enter the lower forms. The only way to be safe in this material world is bhakti yoga. And the fearless path for everybody is to chant the holy names of Krishna. That's stated, fearlessness, fearless path for everyone. I think we heard that recently from Shukadev Goswami in the second canto, that he states that this is the fearless path, is to chant the holy names. And that's what we got to do. Otherwise, it's very dangerous in this material world. But the point I was trying to make is that Krishna is the one satisfying our desires. We have no ability to satisfy our desires on our own. And if we desire to be a pure devotee, then the acharyas are so merciful that on their strength, right, on the strength of their pure devotion, they accept us as if we are pure devotees, even though we're still contaminated with different bogus habits that are, under the modes of nature. So I think I spoke enough. Did I make any more sense, or was it a little bit more too much? Rishi Prabhu?
I have one correction, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
You said that you can't fulfill our desires, but actually in the morning we chant Vanchakalpa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So that means that the devotee can fulfill the desires of everyone. So actually, if I want to make any advancement, I have to understand that you and any other devotee practicing Krishna consciousness that's actually the person that can fulfill my real desire, which is to become a devotee and serve Krishna and go back to Godhead. So whether that's any devotee, whether they're a new bhakta that just joined the movement, or someone who's been around for a long time, a devotee of the Lord is a kalpa vriksha, a desired tree. So
thank you, Prabhu. You're very kind. Yes, Radha Damodar, Prabhu.
Krishna Prabhu. I just had a question, like a scenario kind of, and wondering if you could just maybe talk about it. So like, let's say an impersonalist is speaking to a devotee, and he's noticing that the devotee is in anxiety because he's wanting to protect his Krishna consciousness. And so the impersonalist is saying, what is this fear? This fear is Maya. Why are you so scared of looking at this woman over here? Well, you're not absorbed in Brahman, And then, so some scenario like that, right? Or maybe he sees an exalted devotee experiencing transcendental symptoms, like Ramananda Puri and Madhavendra Puri. And he says, what is this Maya? You're crying or something? Can you have anything on that? Specifically the fear part.
Fear.
Yeah, because that's interesting to me. Yeah.
Well, healthy fear of illusion and losing my service, that'll protect me. And I'm not so puffed up. I'm not so silly that I'll just throw away the golden opportunity to go back to Godhead just to impress some Mayavad bogus person. I don't care what the heck he thinks. The dogs bark, but the caravan goes on, So they may criticize us because we're trying to safeguard the jewel of devotional service. And we're very fragile. So the bhakti creeper has just been planted just moments ago, and we're watering it with great difficulty, right? With great difficulty and determination and, really having to work hard at this. The work we're doing externally is not so difficult. It's very simple. But internally, we're changing the whole paradigm, and the mind is just going crazy. You know? So I have something, and, you know, I'm going to protect it. So if I don't care to read any old book from any bogus person, you know, and you think that that means that I'm afraid, that's okay. I am afraid to lose my Krishna consciousness because I got it by great fortune. The pure devotee has entered my life and given me the crest jewel, you know, of devotional service. And I don't want to lose it and lose my chance to go back to Godhead. The greatest fear is sliding down to the lower life forms. And this fellow, by his word jugglery and his speculation, he thinks that he's free from suffering. But in a matter of moments, he'll be suffering in the darkest regions of hell, according to the Sri Ishupanishad. So, you know, more or less, we don't mind what they say. And their association will convince us that something's wrong with being afraid of Maya. If we hang out with them, they'll say, yeah, why am I afraid? I'll go have a beer right now. Right? It's bad association. Right? If we hang out with those people, their contaminated Mayavad philosophy will trick us into thinking that we can do whatever the heck we want because there's no God, there's no rules. And it's very subtle. It's very subtle. What is it, right? We read Mayavad philosophy. Shankaracharya is predicted in the Padma Purana that Lord Krishna says to him, you go there and you teach this bogus philosophy just to help people engage in sense gratification. What is the top sense gratification? Sex. Right? So he had a plan. And that's where that philosophy goes. So in the front of not being afraid, he's actually just engaging in sense gratification like an animal. Of course, at one time there were very austere persons who followed the impersonal path according to the injunctions of the scriptures. And that's another type of paradigm. You know, mostly we don't meet people like that. You know, you just meet. But even so, we don't want to take advice from them and take their opinions to heart. That means that we're associating with them and we're actually inquiring from them submissively if we take their opinion. So we should be very careful not to take opinions of persons who are not in Krishna consciousness. And it's actually the qualification of a devotee, asat sanga tyaga, that he renounces the association of persons who are not in transcendence, or they're not actually practicing Krishna consciousness. So if we talk about any confidential subject matter with them, then we'll certainly open ourselves up for contamination. You know. Now, in order to defeat them, one should be very well equipped, and he should understand that in the spiritual world there is transcendental motions and variegatedness, and we're just experiencing we're just experiencing some perverted reflection of that. And bhaya means fear. What is that fear? There's a verse in the 4th chapter, chapter 4, text 10. I'm going a little over time here. Chapter 4, text 10, where he says, Vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mamu pashritaha bhavo jnana tapasa uta madbhavam agataha, which states that being free from raga, attachment, bhaya, fear, krodha, anger, being completely absorbed in me and taking shelter in me. Many souls in the past have become perfect by knowledge of me, and thus they have attained transcendental love for me. So they're actually afraid of being a person. Therefore, they want to annihilate their personal existence. So you think I'm afraid, I'm contaminated by the modes of material nature, and I'm afraid to give up my transcendental service, right? I've been serving bad masters for countless lifetimes, and by the mercy of the pure devotee, I somehow got a chance to revive my dormant God consciousness and go back to Godhead. I am afraid to give that up. But you, my good sir, you are afraid to be a real person. You are afraid to admit that you are an infinitesimal spiritual spark, part of the supreme whole, meant to render service to him on a personal level. You're afraid to be a real person. So who's afraid? You're running away and you're chasing all this bogus stuff in this material world. And with philosophy, you're saying that it's as good as anything, that it's all one, it's all fine, whatever path. But you're actually afraid to get real. You're afraid to be a real person and to admit that you are actually have turned your back on the Supreme Lord. And that's your situation. Now, whether we want to have that conversation or not, So, thank you very much, devotees. Please forgive me for any offense, and please continue your devotional service, and please bestow me with all blessings if possible. Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.